Da da da! What's my good chair? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never met me before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And oh my goodness, I was trying actually, and I don't usually do. I love being in contemplation, but the content coming across my path today has been heavy and not enticing in any way. And if I was in it, I was in it. And it was difficult for me, especially, when I am somebody who loves to delve in, right? I love to listen in on conversations about moving forward in different aspects, whether it's actually in history. Yes, you can look forward when you look backwards, and that is the truth. In fact, how much course correction can we do when we look back? And when we do that course correction, we actually have that opportunity to make some movement forward. It's something I discovered a ways back, not specifically in my interest of history, but actually in the interest of my own past. I woke up to some of these ideas, late in my 50s. And, in making sense of it, I really felt it to be true that I was like, what do you call those wildlife cams? Those ones that they throw, or trail cam, that's what they call them. They put them on a tree out in a trail, and you watch the animals and the wildlife going on. I actually feel that I was dropped into the family that I was, like a trail cam. Not understanding that aspect of myself, but going about living my life, having my experiences. And you guys hear me all the time. Sometimes it's just as important to be a spectator than it is to be a participant, because we are naturally, in our human aspects, not very attentive. And I think, in the experiences that I've had, and I don't necessarily believe that it happened accidentally. I really do believe that somebody thought it was for my best interest that I should have these experiences so that I would be hyper vigilant, so that I would pay attention, I wouldn't misstep, that I wouldn't find myself in desperate situations. I know on my mother's side, she had some really traumatic experiences herself when she was a kid. And in those experiences, we always want better for our children, right? She wanted to make sure that we didn't get into those situations and have those experiences ourselves. I believe that. It might have been in her version of tough love, you know, but in some way it imprinted, it worked, right? And maybe she felt that it was something that she had to do. Maybe it was in her own determination not to pass down to her kids that lack of paying attention that possibly her own parents did. She lived on a farm for the most part of her life, so she had kind of free reign when it came to nature and the outdoors and animals. But from the little bit that I got to understand about her life was not easy. She had her own scary and traumatic experiences, and we don't mean to pass those experiences down to our kids for the most part, but it does happen, and it messes the kids up. And it's only in our, I'm not going to say naivety, hard word for me to pronounce, but it's in that not quite understanding. And the thing is, we live in a day and age now where nobody is getting away with anything, right? That, you've heard me say, and, for a few years now, that ignorance is no excuse, right? I don't know if they use that in the criminal system, but it was something that my dad said all the time. My mother said all the time. And, mostly, they would come up with these quotes and these sayings, and it would just make me shake my head because, some would be relevant to my sisters, but not relevant to me. And some would be relevant to me, but not to my sisters. So everything was like, what do you call that? A custom recipe for each one of the kids. And my family was dynamic, but I think we live in a day and age right now where all families are dynamic. But that's the messy part. And you guys probably have heard me say too, sometimes you got to make a mess to clean a mess. So when I said that I came in and, for the first time, and I don't know how long, I was just not interested in what was going on online, right? Maybe I had stuff going on in the background, but I had stuff going on in the foreground. And oh, 99.9% of it wasn't being digested at all. And that one of 100%, 1/100th of a percent that did get through just crawled under my skin, just kind of made me agitated, kind of made me, oh, you need some fresh air, Cindy. And fresh air always does the trick for me, even if it's just walking up the street and back to the apartment, or just going up to the top roof. And I haven't done that for a while, and just hang out there up on the roof and just take in some air. And I always feel better. And it's always in the spur of the moment, right when I'm in the middle of this something, and I'm just like, okay, Cindy, you need to get out. You need a quart of milk. You need something. Go for a walk. And I live about 7 or 8 minutes from a grocery store and the drugstore. So, I don't necessarily have to buy anything. But I always find that, my destination, when I just want to get out just really quickly, not go for a long walk, but just get out there, get some air, do that little bit of right? And at that point, I walk in the door and I feel so much better. I was sitting here and I was waiting to go live. And because I really haven't been listening to the content today in any way, I had no idea what was going on with the world. That all of a sudden I'm picking up my phone and I'm scrolling, and I'm on the computer and checking out content and stuff. And I'm just waiting to go live. And then I look up, and I should have gone live 4 minutes before. But I had grease on my glasses for having dinner. So I had to go run to the washroom and clean my glasses. And I'm piddling around. I'm supposed to be here at 9 o'clock. And I was waiting to go live. And, right, it was almost, well, I think it was 5 or 6 minutes after. Let me just get rid of these notifications and see who's popped in here. And I bet you Tammy's there. Hello, Tammy. Tammy's been in my content a little bit. If you've never popped into one of my live, pop in, right? Keep us company. Say hi to Tammy. She'll probably say hi to you before you even have a chance to put in a message or anything. But she's an absolute sweetheart, and I really appreciate. She's fairly new to my content too. And I hope I haven't been too heavy in that. I try to keep what I want to bring to the table as light as I can, because like I said, we don't always like to be in that state of agitation. And for myself, I'm pretty optimistic, right? I'm a pretty optimistic person naturally, and it's not a lie, because lots of people go, ha ha ha, life is a bowl of jello, and right, Robin Williams, prime example. Who would have known that he was actually struggling underneath? Because he was always so happy. He was always so giving and kind, and you would never have guessed. And, I don't want people to think that, I'm one of those people that, right, cover up her emotions. If I'm having a bad day, if something's really terrible, it's gonna come out. It has come out, right? But I wanted to be honest in today I was actually feeling the agitation, but I think it wasn't the agitation that was me. I think it was the agitation of what's going on in the world today, because it just seemed that everything was coming across my path just to bug the poop out of me, right? That's why I was sitting here waiting to go live. And then, even waiting to go live, I couldn't even be on time. So, a little agitated by that too, right? Because it's not like I could just hit the live button in that moment, because I couldn't even see out my glasses because they were just covered in grease, right? From splattering pans and me adjusting my glasses and stuff. And it's bad enough that I've got the Morse code going on, or the laser vision. That's what it was like, laser vision. Okay. I hope everybody's having a great night tonight. Hi, Tammy. Hi, Eugene. I hope you have been having a really, really nice day, right? At the very least, if it wasn't the most amazing day, that you found little ways, like we were talking about yesterday, about whistling while you work, dancing in the rain, and even smiling when you want to cry, right? For myself, it's just getting up and getting moving. And I think it would have been a different story today if I had sold something. I worked pretty hard this week in trying to get everything listed, but I think everybody's waiting for payday, and I'm going to get slammed tomorrow with people wanting to come and pick up items. But I have a couple of things that are being picked up tomorrow, so it's not like I'm going to be out. And everybody knows that I shut it down at the very least. Well, tomorrow's my day to stay off the line, so I'll probably shut down everything by 5 o'clock, and I will go for a long walk tomorrow. Yes, I will go I promise myself, I will go for a long walk tomorrow. And even if it's just to get a cup of coffee, I'll pick a far away coffee shop, and I'll just give her. I did go for a really long walk earlier this week. I walked to my sister's and I walked home, and I would say that was probably about 8 to 10 kilometer walk, and I took my time, and I was pretty loaded down because I was doing pit stops for her and for myself, grocery shopping. That was the day that I got the bonsai tree garden pot. And it was a really nice day because I was excited because I scored, right? Today, I didn't score anything. I just hung out here figuring Valentine's Day tomorrow, right? That everybody was going to be busy bugging me trying to pick up jewelry. I'd listed so much this week, but can you feel it? These little agitations today. Nothing major, nothing went wrong. I feel absolutely fine. I'm grateful for my good health, and I'm grateful, right? Because I understand that there are a lot of people out there right now struggling emotionally, mentally, right? And physically. And so we always have to appreciate, even when things are not going great, appreciate that they're not going badly, right? And nothing went bad today. Let me grab my cards and have a sip of my coffee. It's still warm. Still warm. I was trying to save a favorite cup of mine. The plastic mugs, I've had these for years and years. A this is probably about 20, 25 years old, but it was new when I got it in a thrift store. I picked them up, these old Tim Hortons thermos ones. They don't make them anymore, but they're my absolute favorite. They're perfect when I go on my road trips because they sit in my coffee holder, and they hold a lot of coffee, and they keep the coffee hot for quite a while, right? So I really enjoy these mugs, but one of my favorite mugs, it's two coffees in a row that it tasted funny, right? So I'm assuming it was just too old, that the plastic is deteriorating or something because it just can't hold a good cup of coffee. And I said goodbye to it, and I threw it in the garbage. I'm not crying over it, right? Right? I probably would have forgotten it by the morning. But we all have our favorite things, right? And sometimes we attach ourselves to things rather than to people, to other humans, right? And we talked a little bit about this week, about how important it is to be social, right? Okay, I had a funeral for a relative that I went to, and Cindy, I heard today the word happiness. The priest in the um in the family said eternal happiness. And I said to myself, Cindy, there's happiness. Oh my goodness. That's absolutely beautiful, Tammy. Oh my goodness. See, and oh, right? And that's what being social does for yourself, and it does for other. Like, that was a gift, right? Like Tammy sharing that with me and making me shine a little bit on the inside, because I'm shining in the inside a little bit and appreciating that, and she knows I'm appreciating. I hope she's shining a little bit in that too. Isn't that strange? Because I never gave it any thought today. That word happiness, right? Um, but but it's something that we should appreciate. When I do pull a card, that we pay attention to the card. We pay attention to that powerful word, because for myself, there's a reason that I pull that word community consistently, right? Why I pull that word acceptance consistently. And I don't always believe that that word is specifically something meant for me, but maybe it's meant for somebody that crosses and it crosses their path, or it is meant for me, and I'm just missing it during the course of the day, like not paying attention to the powerful word yesterday, right? Today, I will pay attention to that powerful word. We'll see, Tammy, how the word tonight comes across our paths, whether it's in a conversation, whether it's in an experience or a little adventure, or in something that we do have to do, right? Grateful. Right. The last funeral that I went to was, and it might not be a good thing, right? Because it would show how unsocial I actually am, that, I don't know people who've passed away, or at least know them well enough to actually attend a funeral, and that would have to say something about me and my capacity to be social, right? But it's not that I don't have the capacity to be social, but there are those times where I feel that I should be on my own because my interests, the things that are important to me, they're not even thoughts sometimes, most of the time, to others. And I'm not somebody that likes to entertain people for the sake of entertaining them. And I do it sometimes out of politeness and courtesy. But for myself, I like to hang with people who like to hang with me, right? And I try not to push myself on people, especially my sisters. I let them approach me as much as they'd like to, because sometimes in our neediness to be social, and we don't see those people around us, that, well, we go straight to the family, don't we? Right? Because you never deny your own. Because in the end, that's all you've got. But I haven't been to a funeral, oh, since my mother passed away in 2011, right? And and yeah, that's a quite a long time. Now there are people in my life, if something should happen, yes, for sure, 100%. But I am grateful that they are alive and kicking, right? Yeah, somebody else came to my mind. I never got to go to their funeral because it had all been planned and done with by the time I actually got word of it. So sometimes we just have to ride the waves in that. I'm sorry. I hope everybody was doing okay, right, at that funeral. But isn't that amazing that even the priest would say something like that, internal happiness? And sometimes that's what it is, that we're moving off to something better, right? Something that's better for us and better for others, right? I always want the best for the people around me, but I also want the best for myself, and I think that should be the priority, right? I think that it would be more agitation for me in this time in my life to have all of those people around me, all of those needs around me. No, that's not true. I kind of miss my old job. I kind of miss my old community, and that's true. But oh my goodness, there's that word community, right? But but uh, but there'll always be opportunities to build new communities, right? To join in on new communities. You would think Tammy was with me for the past 10 years, 11 years I've been here on YouTube. But she's fairly new, but she is so grounded in hanging out with me now that, right, she is like family and friends here. And that seems odd, especially when this is social media, right? This is a brand, this is a platform, but it's my life too. And I make this a big, significant part of my life being a YouTube creator. I had to go in and check to see if I still had my monetization, because I actually heard that lots of people lost their channels in the past little while, right? And I don't really pay attention because I'm not making the big bucks, right? But I can imagine how devastating it would be if somebody was making a huge living on their YouTube channel and then just had that whipped out from underneath them. But also you have to be responsible. Remember what I said when I came in, right? Ignorance is no excuse. I go in, and when YouTube has something to say, when there are new policies, I go into my own brand to make sure in the analytics everything is okay. I make sure I check the boxes so I'm not putting my brand at risk. And they're just simple things. Check the box. Say, is this content for 18 or younger? No, check that box, right? And then you don't have to worry about that. Yes, you put yourself in a position where you're not going to get ads and stuff on your content. That would be right. You miss out on a little bit of that because you're a little bit limited in who your target audience is, right? But I would like to help the people, those kids, those teenagers. And the thing is, children and teenagers, they are protected. They're highly protected. And my content is heavy. And of course, in practicing my craft, I don't want to overstep myself in that. But I can't reach those kids. I can't reach those teenagers because number one, right? We don't want to misstep. I'm very proud of the fact that I have a monetized channel and that I'm in good standing in YouTube. I think I am, right? Right? But it's a matter of being responsible myself. I don't use any AI, right? Because it's me showing up in the good moments, in the bad moments, in being that example for others, because this is a way for us to be social now, right? There's going to come a time, where it's going to be. I made a joke about it one time about, it's going to come where, the boys, when they turn 16 or 17 years old, there's going to be a rite of passage that they're going to have to go off to the sperm clinic and donate sperm because we are becoming so individual. We're becoming so isolated in our lives. Sometimes it's because of that hyper vigilant and in our upbringings, but lots of times it's because of AI getting our attention because it's so comfortable to sit and have the world, right, at our fingertips. And when that happens, well, you're not out there. You're not even walking to the grocery store just to get some fresh air. You're not doing, you're just staying indoors, right? You're just staying indoors. And what you take in online or those video games that you're online or in that research or that science, like everything is made so easy in this age of AI learning that it is going to cause difficulties, right, socially for us. And it's important for us to be responsible. So even if my channel was demonetized, I would have to be okay with that. It wouldn't stop me from what I'm doing because I'm doing this for myself and I'm doing this as my give back in what I learned, because I know if I got stuck, if I got trapped in those limitations, if I've had those experiences, there are people out there who have gone through the same and possibly even worse, right? Even worse. But we don't always show it, right? Because it's important to be, right, positive. And even if we're not feeling good, we're going to work and we're smiling. And it's just the nature of how we live now, right? And then when we get off work, we go right back home and we're back on the video games and Survivor and right and YouTube videos and music and right in trying to dissipate our crappy days, right? And that's why it's important. right? To do what you love, right? When we talk about that word happiness, it's why, because it's important. And lots of people, right, they love playing video games and stuff, and that's great, but to an extent, right? There's a time and place for everything. Did you make your bed? Did you clean your room? Did you make dinner? Did you do laundry? Did you mow the grass? Did you do your homework? Right? Right? There are responsibilities in that. And just like my YouTube channel, I have a responsibility to my brand. This can't just be fun and games. And even though I try to keep it light, it isn't fun and games. It's really, really, really important. But I think it's important for all of us, right? Because we have to be the example for each other. But what kind of example can I be to somebody who's sitting in front of the game station and playing video games? I'm not even reaching them in any way. And that's going to be our downfall, right? In not being able to be social that way, right? We can talk a good we could talk a good game if somebody's not right in front of us, who doesn't see us from day to day, hour to hour, right? We could pretend to be somebody that we're not. But then somebody says, okay, time for us to meet up. And what happens? Somebody gets stood up because, right? They think it's because they didn't think they were good enough or they didn't like them or something. But no, it's because that person didn't know how to be social. They chickened out in the end. And so I think, there will come a time where it will be important to be creative in the way that, right, to make sure that we don't get extinct. We can evolve, right? We can evolve. You can't stop evolution, but extinction is there, and we've seen it time and time again. I heard that the white rhino is now, it's they're not gone, there's two rhinos left, but they're both females, so officially the white rhinos are extinct. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, it's really sad. Now, I'm sure they will find ways. I'm sure there's a taxidermy white rhino somewheres in a museum. I'm sure they can get the DNA out of it, and I think it probably might be a good idea. I think they're moving in other animals right now. They're bringing back the dodo, the Tasmanian devil, which is actually the Thylacine, right? Which was um, it was like a dog, right? Like a hyena or something. And yeah, that last Tasmanian devil that died in the 30s, and now they're bringing it back, right? I heard the Chinese are working on the mammoth, trying to bring the mammoth back. Not trying, because right, it's not a matter of can we bring these animals back, it's an ethic thing. And it's kind of what I think, that when I came in, I said, I'm like a trail cam on a tree, that my experience is just to scope out, right? What went wrong. Because I see it. I like to think that I see it all the time, where we could have done better, and where people have done wrong or got it wrong, and all our missteps, but all our successes too. But that's not to say that they'll move into the future just because, there are successes there. Lots of times we don't hold on to them long enough for them to be grounded and imprinted and to become truth and fact and actuality, right? Everybody has an idea. They're a dime a dozen, right? I could sit here all day long and pop them out, right? But maybe we are one of those species that the future is trying to bring back, right? I've thought of it. And I think there's a great possibility that could be exactly what's going, that there's like 12 petri dishes of worlds out there, and they are all being created at the same time because they're trying to get us to a stage of evolution. But because, right, it's just not the human, because we have choices in that and we change our minds all the time. But in order for us to get to point A to point G, even, right? Like, there are lots of choices in between then. And in order to get here, those major choices, those important choices have to be made, right? They have to be made. Otherwise, we'll never get there. We'll get to something. What that is, who knows, right? But if there's a plan in mind, a destination in mind, and something that would be, right, beneficial so that, mankind doesn't go extinct, then we have to be willing at the very least to be malleable in that, right? And that's why it's important to pay attention. And these powerful words do exactly that, because it's not like these words are going to change the world tomorrow, but it's the idea that you see how many times that word comes across your path and you never notice it. It's like Tammy, right? The other day, and she messaged me. She goes, "Oh my goodness, Cindy, that work community was happening all over the place, right? Right? And it's because you're paying attention to it, right? You're paying attention. You're making note every time you have an experience with the world, or sorry, with the word, or you have a conversation with the word, or somebody's talking about it, you go, oh, right, there's that word again. Or a bus goes by you and is plastered on the side of the bus or on the side of a building, right? And it's got to make you wonder in that. And if you wonder in that, then maybe, right, in that practice, it's about paying attention, right? Remember what I said? Sometimes it's just as important to be a spectator and a student, right? And not always a participant. But we, at the very least, have to learn to be social. There's too many of us that are, right? They're loners, they're introverts, they're hyper vigilant, they're very guarded in their surroundings. They're very prejudiced and judgmental about who they let into their life, right? If you smile at me, I'm yours, right? And I believe that's a good way to live, right? You stop smiling at me and then it's fine, right? See you on the beach. But if you smile at me, right, there's that possibility that we could be best friends, that we could be lovers, but we could be husband and wife, that we could be, right, forever friends. You never know. It's about leaving yourself open that way. And I know lots of people that's not in them, right? For myself, I didn't have much of a choice. And because I also worked in hospitality, I have no idea how I got into hospitality, but I'm so grateful that I did, right? Because working in hospitality and customer service my whole life, it opened me up and it made me recognize that there truly is really beautiful, beautiful people out there. And everybody deserves a chance, right? Everybody deserves a chance, but at the same time, we're responsible, right? Are we going to sit in front of the TV watching Survivor or playing our video games? or we're going to get up and go for a walk, or we're going to say hi to somebody when we're going down the same elevator. We are going to hold the door for somebody when the door's heavy and somebody's got bags. Like, it's in our choices, isn't it? Right? Okay, you guys. Let's get into a card here. I'm going to come back into my live. It is Friday. Saturdays, I don't come in on Saturdays and keep company with anybody. I usually just keep company with myself. But I do recognize when the weather is nice, and that's a big part of it too, right? We have really mild weather right now, and it's reminding me of spring. And today I was working on my summer trip, right? And I can thank Tammy for that because she was in my Ontario Park tour videos today and she was commenting there. And I went, oh my goodness, Cindy, go in there and whittle down the 3 best spots you want for each one of your parks. And then I was doing it and I went, oh my goodness, I've got an 8-hour drive between this park and that park. I do not want to be on the road for 8 hours because 8 hours is like 10 or 12 hours with all my little pit stops and get out of the car and go walk into the bush or sightseeing. And I dilly dally there, right? And that's what my trips are for. They're for me. And if I want to go slow, I go slow. If I want to stop, I will stop, right? If I want to go 100 miles an hour, I'll go 100 miles an hour, right? And I enjoy it all. And it was funny too, because when you mentioned that camping spot, how beautiful it was, and how sorry you felt for me because my tent busted on me and everything. That camping spot, that provincial park, was my favorite last year. Like, I just enjoyed it so much. I enjoyed the spot I was in. I enjoyed sitting by the lake. I enjoyed the challenge of sleeping in the car. And I was sore too. Oh my goodness. I think there was a whole day there that my whole side just was so sore because I was all cramped and I hadn't found that special spot in order that I could sleep properly, right? I didn't expect that I was going to have to sleep in the car. But it worked out absolutely fine for me. And I had to say, that this past year's trip was the best trip of all. And I only got to do four campgrounds last year. I got to spend 2 days in each campground, but I picked beautiful spots. I enjoyed myself so much when I was editing the video because I post those. They're my outdoor adventures. When I post those, I could tell in my editing how exhausted I was. I was so in slow motion. My voice was ratty. I couldn't see because my glasses were peeling and everything. I was just like, Cindy, it was fantastic. It was a fantastic. You're going to get through this. And you know what? I wish I had a couple of more videos from that trip that I could edit right now and post, right? That's how much I enjoyed that trip this past September. This next one, I'm working on 8 different provincial parks. I'm looking to go away for 3 weeks. I got the dates down packed. I got the parts done again. I had to rearrange them because I don't want to drive more than 5 hours in a day. And I picked up one extra park just so that I can just do one day. And then on my way to the next park, I can stop at my favorite amethyst mine and spend an afternoon digging for amethyst, right? Without it interfering with me getting from point A to point B. Okay, let me come into the content for our comments for a moment, and then I'll be into the word. Your hospitality career and service career, Cindy, have been your communities, and those are the communities too. Hospitality community and service community. Oh my goodness. Don't do it, Tammy. I am not ready to pull that word community again tonight. right? Oh my goodness. It would really freak me out. We've had it quite a bit lately, that word community. And even when I thought I got it right, it came right back at me. But, right, it is what it is. And it will reveal itself at some point, right? It will. Okay, you guys, big mess here. Let's pick a card. So I'm just going to turn my head just for this week, just because, right? If I pick that card away, I just don't want to. Somebody, oh, well, okay. Oh, I dropped them all again. See, okay, I'll do it like this down here. No, I can't do that. Then you don't see what's going on down there, right? Okay, you guys, let's just pick a card. Any old card. Just pick one, Cindy. Front or back? We'll take the back. I don't know what I can say, you guys, right? Like, this seriously is a red brick right upside the side of my head. It's really, it's not the way I wanted to end. It's not the way I wanted to end the week. First perspective, well, community. When we were talking about being social, right? That each one of us is responsible to be able to be connected in their surroundings. But also, it's important for us to be connected with others. And lots of us, we have issues when it comes to family. We're all growing up, especially in this day and age, in dynamic families, right? And in those experiences in those dynamic families, they're not always good. And we come out of that and look to get out of that, even at a young age. Even for myself, at 10 years old, I would hop on a bus and I would take off to Stanley Park. I lived in Vancouver, British Columbia at the time. I'd go to Stanley Park and I would just hang out there all day long because I didn't want to be at home. It forced me to be social because lots of times, right, I wouldn't have a ride to get home. I wouldn't want to be walking because I was quite a ways away from home, but also recognizing that in those limitations that I picked up as a child, right? Because my social atmosphere was within my family. Heard me say earlier today or earlier in my life, right? That my sisters were my friends, right? My family was kind of isolated in that. We didn't have a lot of people coming over to the house. It was basically just family. And that was my community. Now, when I talked about, being in hospitality, right, and being in customer service, that came directly from my family, being that role of people pleaser, right? In second guessing, oh, how am I going to make mom happy? How are we going to keep her calm? Make sure that she doesn't blow up, looking out for my own safety, but doing those kindnesses and doing that service, right? It's important that it's genuine. And I could have very easily grown up to do that consistently, just that people pleasing, just because I had to, and not because I wanted to. Do it because I needed to put the roof over my head. Do it because I didn't want somebody to blow up at me. Do it because I wanted somebody to like me, right? I have no idea how I managed that, but it was because I was put in social situations, right? and being a social person. And like I said, sometimes you have to pretend a little bit to get past the hard part. And community service, our customer service, and working in hospitality, it allowed me to get to know people. It allowed me to fall in love with my husband. It's when I was working in bars and nightclubs, I met my husband in a bar. And it was only because I had learned the uh, the trait. Is that the word I'm looking for? Uh, the capability of being social, that people actually liked me. I belonged to a group, and me and my best friend at the time, who I just loved more than anything in the world, and he loved me more than anything in the world, but it just wouldn't have worked that way because, again, in my limiting beliefs and in my upbringings, we pull things into our adulthood, and we were very different in some ways, but very alike in others. But we managed to put a community of like minded people together, and we built our own community in that. And he got to be king, I got to be queen of it. And that group, oh my goodness, we hung out and we had so much fun. And that group pretty much stuck together for about 10 years, for a very, very long time. In fact, my youngest sister married one of my friend's brother, and he was somebody who walked me down the aisle when I got married. And you know it's funny because sometimes we do pretend, right? But it's like you going on a first date. When you go on a first date, you put on a shirt and tie, you give the best manners, you open the door for the lady, right? You pay the bill, then you move in, you get flowers on your anniversary, and then a year goes by and you're picking the laundry up off the clothes. He's walking in the door going, "Where's my dinner?" Right? Garbage day 4 is being forgotten. The grass is like 6 feet tall. And you go, like, what happened to that person that I fell in love with? Right? But sometimes we get to know people well enough that we can actually appreciate them for who they are, because they're being who they are, right? And, it's happened to me so many times. And actually, that's a trait that I look for in people. I look for that heart. I look for those people that won't judge me for who I am. And at the same time, when that happens, I can let my guard down, and I can understand possibly that I can be the true person that I am. It's something that I practice on my platform. And again, I think that's probably why my monetization has not been taken away from me, right? And again, it's in my choices to make sure that I'm on top of that game, that I'm not missing important aspects and important rules and guidelines that are constantly changing, right? Ignorance is no excuse. I can't say, "Oh, I'm really, really sorry. I didn't know that I wasn't allowed to use a fake voice, that I wasn't allowed to use an AI voice. I didn't know that I was not able to tell the baseline of a kind of story that I wanted to tell, and then put a picture up there and then just let the computer tell the story," right? It's my responsibility to show up. And I guess maybe in those things that I like to be the example of for others is that people who are loners or introverts, right? A little bit on the shy side, that they can find ways to be social, right? That maybe the kids, when they turn 17 years old, won't have that rite of passage of having to go down to the sperm bank, that will be able to manage perfectly fine on our own and be happy in our life and have company in our life, have our own community, even if it is just a wife and kids and a few neighbors, right? However, it takes all kinds to make the world, but we have to be able to recognize what that kind is and not be surprised at it, thinking, oh my goodness, this is the most amazing person in the whole world. And then 2 weeks later, right, you hear that he did a school shooting or he's ending up in jail for robbing a bank or something, right? And again, ignorance is no excuse. It's up to us to set those baselines, those guidelines, those boundaries for ourselves, and then, right, get out in the world and attract like minded people who can manage to appreciate and honor your boundaries, knowing that you'll do the same for them. Can you believe? I don't know. I don't know. Oh my goodness, you guys. That's a way to end the week, isn't it? I think that's the second time this week we had the word community. I didn't get that right. I'm sure. I'm sure it's going to show up again right away. But maybe it's the idea that I'm supposed to really get into the topic, right? I said today that, right, nothing was getting through to me. Everything was just kind of heavy and kind of making me go in a direction that I didn't want to go into. But if I delve into and spend some time tomorrow and actually get into the real topic of community, right? Maybe I'll Google it, right? Maybe I'll go and spend some time with my sisters, right? My sister said she'd phone me when she was up for some company, but sometimes, right, you just got to remind them that you're still around. Okay, you guys. Right, Tammy? Right? That's crazy. And I got to make a thumbnail again that says community. Maybe YouTube will demonetize myself because the same word keeps popping up. Oh, you guys, I don't know. It is what it is, right? It is what it is, but it is something, isn't it? Okay, you guys, have a great weekend. If you want to pop in on Sunday night, I will be here Sunday night in Chatters Live. Come and hang out. Tammy's a new moderator on my channel on Sunday nights and here now. And I never had any moderators on this live. So you're my first moderator that's consistent and coming to hang out with me here. So I'm very grateful for that, Tammy. I don't expect that you're going to have to be here all the time. Just every once in a while, if you do pop by, jump in, say hi to people, right? It's my community, right? It's my community, and it's an amazing community. It's a small community, but it's a community. It's moving forward. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer. See you tomorrow. Oh no, see you on Monday or Sunday.